the Silent Beauty Doctor here on YouTube, and in today's video we're going to be talking about mineral sunscreen, some new ones, some that are really great, some that I'm like this close to filing federal charges against for hate crime. You'll see why. We'll be talking about sunscreens from Live Tinted, Sunday Riley, the new Cetaphil Sheer mineral sunscreen, and a couple more, so keep watching. So first up, the Live Tinted Hue Guard 3-in-1 sunscreen, moisturizer, primer, SPF 30. This is $32 and you're going to get 1.7 fluid ounces or 50 ml of product. Now this sunscreen is from the brand made by an influencer of color, Deepika. She's very well known for going viral a couple of years ago for her color correcting video that she did with lipstick. And then she came out with the Live Tinted brand where she came out with these color correctors. And now I'm glad to see that she has this mineral sunscreen. So now a few things to note. If you're someone who has particularly sensitive skin and there are ingredients that you look out for, you know, of course, I will link each product below in the description box and you can check out the full ingredient list. But some immediate call outs that I wanted to bring to your attention. This is fragrance free. It also contains iron oxides. Now iron oxides, as we've mentioned many times before on this channel, that they help to provide additional protection from visible light. Visible light along with UVA can worsen pigmentation, particularly in those of us of color, so it's great to have that additional protection. Now, of course, iron oxides aren't the only material. Antioxidants also help to give you some blue light protection as well. If you want to know more about iron oxides and them being in sunscreens, there's a video on that, so make sure you check it out. I have to say, this is probably one of the best mineral sunscreens that I've tried on the channel thus far. This was going to be added to my blog post list where I kind of tally up some of the best ones that I've tried. I'll link it in the description box if you want to check it out. It is very hard to clock a cast with this. Now, I'm not saying it's completely invisible, but it's hard to clock a cast. Now, the cast is going to look different on different skin tones, of course. If you have a more rich, chocolatey complexion than mine, the cast might be a little bit more clockable on you than it is on me. But I have to say that my experience with this product was really, really nice. It does have more of a satin finish, which I typically prefer a satin matte finish for my oily skin, especially in the summertime. But I think that if you kind of look at, you know, what you're going to be doing for the day, what season it is, what's your skin type, are you going to be wearing makeup, are you not wearing makeup, how much makeup, are you going to the gym, like those sort of things are going to factor into, you know, whether or not this is going to be a great sunscreen for you. I would even argue that it makes sense for most people to have more than one type of sunscreen in their stash, because if you're someone like me, like today I'm wearing makeup, so I want a sunscreen that's going to look good under makeup. But if I'm out running or going to the gym or something, I'm probably going to want a completely different sunscreen that's water resistant, that's more conducive to that activity. That said, I actually did like this, although it is summertime right now and I do have oily skin. It did leave more of a sheen on my skin than I particularly prefer. But if you're going to wear this in the summer and you have oily skin, I would definitely expect to have to touch up pretty often throughout the day. It really depends on how hot it is, what you're doing, all that other stuff, right? But what I would do if I were to wear a sunscreen like this is that I would just touch it up throughout the day with a mineral powder sunscreen, too, that I enjoy, the Peter Thomas Roth, as well as the Super Goop. I will link those both below in the description box so you can check it out. But I like to use a mineral powder sunscreen throughout the day, normally if I'm wearing makeup and I'm going to be out and about, because not only am I reapplying my sunscreen over my makeup, which is, you know, a smart thing to do. You know, we like to do smart things here on this channel. But also, as I'm reapplying the sunscreen, because it is a powder, it's also touching my makeup up. It's getting rid of the, you know, the shiny and all that other stuff. So consider getting a mineral powder sunscreen in your routine, especially if you're looking to reapply sunscreen on days when you're wearing makeup. Have you tried this? Would you try this? Let me know in the comments. Next up, the Sunday Riley Lighthearted Sunscreen SPF 30. This is 1.5 fluid ounces and it's 35 bucks. This was sent to me in PR. So this is actually a hybrid sunscreen. So this contains both mineral / inorganic UV filters as well as chemical / organic UV filters. So the filters in here, octisalate, octocrylene, and zinc oxide. So now there are a couple of benefits to using a hybrid sunscreen. Zinc actually has some like healing properties, and if you check out the acne prone SPF video with acne expert Marie Claire Cates, I'll link to that so you can check that out above. She mentions how zinc is a really nice healing ingredient for acne prone skin. Now there are other ingredients that you need to look out for if you have acne prone skin, so make sure you check out that video for the full tea. But having zinc for some people can be a really great ingredient. Now the chemical filters that are in here aren't typically the ones that you hear most people having issues with. Now I'm not saying that you won't have an issue with it. Everyone's skin is different, so if you're going to be trying something new, do a patch test, and before you go and put the whole thing on your face and then be hoping and wishing that it don't give you a reaction, okay? That's not what we do. We test first, anything new. So this also has a satin finish. As someone with oily skin, and especially being as how it's summertime, satin finishes aren't my first go-to finish. I prefer something that's a little bit more of a satin matte, but I don't think that you're going to have much of an issue depending on what your activities are for the day and the look you're going for. It's going to leave a nice sheen on your skin, and if you're putting makeup on top of that, I would definitely expect to maybe touch up your makeup quite often throughout the day. But as I mentioned before with the lip tinted, you know, you get yourself a mineral powder sunscreen, and I'll link two of the ones that I like below in the description box. And then that way, that's something where you're also reapplying your sunscreen throughout the day over your makeup, but then you're also bringing down some of the shine. The thing though, when you first put this on, is really like bluish, like, whoa, like, what's about to happen here? But thankfully, that does start to dissipate a little bit and it kind of calms down. There's still like a little, like a bit of a cast. This is not going to be completely invisible, but it's also not the worst mineral sunscreen I've tried. I also found that it got caught in my hairline. I have very thick edges, so I also use that as a way to gauge for my people with facial hair. If you have a mustache or a beard or thick eyebrows, this is something that is probably going to get caught in those areas. It might not, you know, it might take a little bit more smoothing out to get that to blend out of your facial hair if you have it. This also provides some blue light protection if you're looking for that. It doesn't have iron oxides, but remember, iron oxides aren't the only material that protect you from blue light. Certain antioxidants do as well. But overall, not bad. I don't know that I would count this as one of like the best mineral sunscreens that I've tried thus far, but it wasn't bad. If you've tried this or you would try it, leave a comment below. Next up from Derma E, this is the Sun Defense Mineral Sunscreen SPF 30 Body. You're going to get 4 ounces of product, and this is going to cost about $14.99. So this was sent to me in PR, and okay, we'll get to it. So it says it's 100% unscented. Now, unscented does mean that there could be items in there that can be considered fragrance, but they are used to mask like a certain odor. But when you put this on, I'm not quite sure which particular odor it was masking, because this has a very strong mineral sunscreen smell, like that kind of like crayon, Elmer's glue kind of smell to it. Like, yeah. However, this is a really bad white cast. Like, I put this on my arm and tried to rub it out. Now, the texture is really creamy and nice, but as you're trying to like blend it into the skin, it does feel a little bit, it does tend to feel a little bit like almost pasty, where it's like you have to really put some elbow grease in to really rub it out. And then you're doing all that rubbing in vain, because it's like, my arm looked damn near like this I put this on. So, oh yeah. So this actually says on the bottle that it's non-nano zinc oxide, and ooh, do I believe them. Now here's the thing about nano, non-nano. There's no real like spectrum to say what's nano, what's non-nano. But typically if you see a mineral sunscreen that says non-nano, that means that they did not try to micronize the zinc particles so that they're less apparent on the skin. But anyway, I would not recommend this. Like, I don't know. I don't even think this would be a good sunscreen for white people. So, anyway, next. So, next up, also sent to me in PR, the Derma E Sun Defense Mineral Oil-Free Sunscreen for the face. This is also an SPF 30. It's also non-nano. It is also extremely ashy and white and cast-like on the face, much like the body one. As a matter of fact, it's a pretty similar experience between the face and the body, except that the face one is oil-free. Honestly, the cast was so aggressive on both these Derma E, both the face and the body, that even when I was like, okay, let me give it some time for this to settle and see if the cast doesn't look as bad. Like, I had the one on my arm for probably maybe an hour, and it was resilient. It was not trying to fade at all, so. Anyway, next. So next up, the Farmacy Green Defense Daily Mineral Sunscreen Broad Spectrum SPF 30. This was sent to me in PR. So this is 1.7 fluid ounces or 50 ml, and this clocks in at $36. So this has been reformulated. I haven't tried the first one, so I have nothing to compare it to, but these are my thoughts on this reformulated version. I would say that this has a very creamy consistency. This also touts that it's non-nano. It also touts that it's synthetic fragrance free, but if you are someone who, you know, specifically looks for fragrance-free products, that still means it has fragrance in it, because people think that like things that are naturally derived are better, but you can still be allergic to, you know, those particular ingredients. If you're someone particularly, you know that fragrance is like a no-no for you. I do like that it blends in nicely, doesn't drag on the skin, because some mineral sunscreens, you put it on and it's like, So this has a satin finish when you first put it on, so it does have like a bit of a sheen to it. But as you let it sit and settle, it does have more of a satin matte finish. So if you're someone with oily skin and you're wearing something like this in the summertime, it might not be a bad choice for you, you know? Depends on how much makeup you're putting on, what your activities you're gonna be doing throughout the day, you know, yada yada. You know, everyone's lifestyle is different. Now, what I found weird about this is that, okay, for one, it did get caught in my edges and stuff like that. So if you're someone with facial hair, beard, mustache, what have you, thick eyebrows, this is probably gonna get caught up in that. But what was weird is that the cast started to become more apparent as time went on. It's like, it was almost like it was a mood ring. Like, what's happening here? So I would definitely say this definitely is going to give you a cast. Especially if you're about my complexion or deeper, you might expect a cast. If you're lighter, maybe not, but I don't know. The way this thing was like settling down with more of a cast as time went on, I was like, whoa, it's gonna happen by the end of the day. Now, the cast isn't bad. I think if you're someone who doesn't mind, you know, wearing makeup on top, that it'll be fine. But of course, no flash photos, because them flash photos always get you. This also points out that it's silicone free. Now, here's the thing with silicones. Silicones have been fear-mongered, right? People say they clog your pores, this and that. The very nature of silicone, the way that they are constructed, it's almost impossible for it to clog your pores. So there's that. But what some people might be looking for in a silicone-free product is that maybe you have a lot of steps in your routine and you've noticed that you get a little bit of like pilling. So pilling can happen when the base of your product doesn't really like match up with each other. And sometimes that can happen in particular with products that have silicones in them. So if that is you, you know, this might be something to look into. But if you have tried this, or you're looking to try it, or you like, nah, I ain't with it, let me know in the comments. So next up, the Bliss Block Star Invisible Daily Sunscreen SPF 30. This was sent to me in PR. This is 1.4 fluid ounces of product, and it runs for about $19.99. So this is tinted, so it has some iron oxides in it, and of course, you know, iron oxides do help to provide some additional protection from visible light. And as I mentioned before, there is a video on iron oxides and why they're great for those of us of color with persistent pigmentation issues. Make sure you check that out. So this has more of a satin finish when you first put it on, but it dries down to a satin matte. So if you're someone with oily skin, you know, this might be something you might want to look into, but also keep listening to everything else I have to say about this sunscreen, this invisible sunscreen. Now, this has a cast to it, right? So I hate that they call it invisible. Like, I wish, like, calm down with the throwing of the invisible on the label of a mineral sunscreen. Like, I wish brands would just, like, you know, let's, like, chill. Don't do that. Don't set us up, right? Now, here's the thing. The cast was like, whoa, when you first put it on, right? But it does this weird thing, much like the other one I just mentioned, where the cast slowly starts to calm down, but then I felt like it kind of also started to look more apparent as the sunscreen dried out. It's like this really weird mood ring thing that it does. This ain't nobody's invisible. I don't know who they thought this was gonna be invisible on, but no. But if you're someone who doesn't mind putting makeup on top, it won't be as bad. But no flash photos. None. If you have tried this or you wish to try it, let me know in the comments. Next up, the Roche Posay Anthelios HA Mineral Daily Moisturizing Cream with Mineral Sunscreen, SPF 30. This is 1.7 ounces of product for $34.99. Alright, after this video, I might need to call the feds on La Roche Posay for this sunscreen. Well, let's talk about some of the positive attributes first. So it's fragrance free, so if that's something that you're looking for, whoop, there it is. And I feel like that's the only thing I could say that was somewhat positive. And I'm not even someone who looks for stuff that's fragrance free, right? And then that's the only one maybe positive attribute I had to say about it, because man, this was awful sunscreen. So first of all, it feels very pasty. Now, that is something that I find, you know, is somewhat common in some mineral sunscreens. Some of them are a little bit more cosmetically elegant, where they glide on the skin, they blend really nicely. This one took a little grease work, a little elbow grease, to get this to blend into the skin, right? The white cast on this is extremely aggressive. I didn't even get the full amount on my face yet, because I was tired of rubbing this thing in, and I was like, you know what, let me just take a break. And, you know, the break turned it into about 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then I looked at my face and I'm like, oh my God, the white cast is still extremely aggressive and apparent and visible. And I don't even have the right amount of sunscreen on my face. So it's gonna be even worse when you put the full amount on. I don't know, the Roche Posay makes some really amazing sunscreens, and this just is not one of them. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. As a matter of fact, that was also sent to me in PR. You know, I have to make sure I put my disclosures and all that. Next up, the new Cetaphil Sheer Mineral Sunscreen. I picked up both the SPF 30 and the SPF 50. These are both 3 fluid ounces. The 30 is a slightly less expensive at $9.97, about, you know, give or take. And the 50 is about $11.85, give or take. Straight up, I'm definitely calling the feds on Cetaphil for this, because you got the nerve to call this sheer. I'll say a couple of somewhat nice things that I found out about it, but overall the experience was abysmal. Now, both of these are fragrance free, so if that's something that you're looking for, boom and boom. They're both water resistant up to 80 minutes. I mean, bullshit. The way that it... I would expect this pasty mess to be water resistant up to 80 minutes. But of course, nothing is waterproof when it comes to sunscreen. So when you get in the water, assuming you're getting in the water with a water resistant sunscreen that's not this, because this ain't it. But if you're getting in the water with a water resistant sunscreen, once you get out, you want to towel off and then reapply your sunscreen. Water resistant does not mean waterproof. Please be safe out there in these streets. Ditto if you're sweating profusely, or, you know, you happen to walk by a fire hydrant and you just get wet, or however y'all get wet, you know, I ain't judging. Now, I would say that these were kind of hard to glide on the skin. It did feel a little bit pasty. The 50, though, had it was like a touch more easier to glide on the skin than the 30 did. Now, it is sheer in terms of formula, right? But it's a sheer white. Texture of these themselves both feel very sheer. It doesn't feel like you have a lot on your skin, but it looks like you have a lot on your skin because of the cast. This definitely collected in my edges a lot, so if you're someone with a beard, mustache, thick eyebrows, Now, the cast does tend to calm down a little bit, but it is still extremely clockable, boom, there's a cast. Now, if you're someone who normally wears mineral sunscreen and you also wear makeup and usually don't care about the cast, then this might work for you, but it also might alter your base, so just be careful with that. You might have to, you know, maybe put some bronzer, additional bronzer on to warm things up, or maybe you might have to put a drop or two of a darker foundation just because the white cast might, you know, make your regular foundation look a little bit too light. So these are things to consider if you dared to even bother with this. I personally would be like, nah, sis, nah, bro. The nerve to write sheer on this thing. Like, the sheer, the invisible, I'm calling the feds. Now, if you're feeling like you want to see some more mineral sunscreen reviews, I got you. Up next, I have a playlist on my mineral sunscreen for darker skin playlist. And I'm also going to stick in the sunscreen for darker skin playlist here as well. So if you're someone who, you know, you don't mind trying out the chemical sunscreens, there's a bunch of them in there that I've tried as well. Follow me on social. Links will be in the description box, and I will see you folks in my next video. Bye, guys.